Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Welcome our hadith disciples, YouTubers, and viewers upon the Sunnah to another episode of F.M.F 5 Minutes of Faida. Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salam ala rasulillahi amma ba'd. We're here in the outskirts of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam's city, a place which some people refer to as Al-Bayda, or they say the White Mountains. As you can see, these lightly colored mountains in the background. And what we want to discuss briefly, brothers and sisters, is something that every single Muslim needs, rather every single human being, and that is the concept of having calmness, stillness, and a time of quietness. When does the believer get away from the hustle and the bustle of the city? When you get away from technology? When are you not sitting in front of a screen? And when you take time and reflect and ponder on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's creation? Now we have several verses in the Quran al-Kareem that talk about reflecting on Allah's khalq, Allah's created beings in general. And we also have specific verses that Allah tells us about the mountains. The mountains. Sometimes Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He mentions the mountains as a means of imtinan, a blessing that He did for His slaves. Other times, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He speaks about the jibal as a similitude for their firmness and their stableness in the earth. From the surahs that every single Muslim starts to memorize or tries to memorize is Amma yatasa'alun. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Alam naj'al al-arda mihadan. Have we not made the earth as a mihad, something that's still, that doesn't move, that doesn't shake? And Allah also talks about, He says, Wal jibala awtada. We've made the mountain as pegs, that they stand firm and they keep the earth from shaking and moving violently. In other words, when things are always moving and shaking, it's not so good. But when things are still, when things are quiet and at rest and serene, then that is a blessing of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And there are many other verses that talk about the mountains and that talk about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's creation. So therefore, when you come out to the mountains, you look at their magnificence. Who created them? And why did He create them? The one who made that magnificent landscape and scene has to be someone who's most powerful, most knowledgeable, omnipotent to do all things. So therefore, worship Him along without any partner. Obey His commands and avoid the things that He has made prohibited. Another benefit from coming outside in a place like this is the fresh air. No exhaust, or not too much exhaust, not too much smoke. And there lies no doubt, man-made creations, pollutions, are things that have an effect upon a person's physical body and may have an effect upon your mind, how you think, the elements that surround you. But every now and then when a Muslim gets away from all of that and he thinks about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's perfection, His beauty, and that is peerless. Man can't do this. They can't make these things. They can't produce these things. So therefore, it isn't something which is more beneficial than a tadabbur. A benefit that Ibn Abdul Wahhab rahimahullah ta'ala explained in his book Masail al-Jahiliyyah, that's a bat in the background. He said that from the things which brought those great generations, those ummah, those nations to ruin and to destruction, was that they didn't reflect. And if the Muslims fail to think about what Allah is talking about in those stories of the Quran, if they don't concentrate, don't reflect, then they're going to have the same fate. Ibn Abdul Wahhab rahimahullah ta'ala, he said that there isn't anything which is more destructive than adam al-tafakkur wa tadabbur, not reflecting and thinking that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is just talking about a nation that went away. They're just talking about nations that were destroyed and they were brought to destruction, and that's it, and it doesn't apply to me. That's the thing that destroys a human being. And allows no doubt modern technology, we're not against modern technology, but as a reality, all of these comforts of the modern world, they take you away from thinking about the reality of death, the reality of creation, and your purpose as a Muslim. Until the next episode of 5 Minutes of Faida, thank you all for listening. Wa jazakumullahu khairan. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.